Alright, what's going on, guys? Today we're working on this 2008 Mazdaspeed3. We're putting in a new downpipe with a high flow cat, and we're putting in a lower mileage KO4 turbo. It's the stock turbo, but the oil seals on this turbo have blown, so it's blowing some blue smoke on hard acceleration. And then a high flow cat will allow us to hit higher boost and have less restriction. The turbo's on the back of the engine, so we've let it cool down for a little bit. It's going to be a hot job, so let's get into it.
Okay, so start, we got to take off the intercooler. Regardless if you just want to do downpipe or turbo, this comes out. We'll need to remove the battery box and battery to get to the intake, which is also coming off if you're going to be doing the turbo. And you're going to need to be taking the heat shields off in the back to get to the downpipe bolts. We have already soaked that O2 in some WD-40 penetrating fluid, which will make your life a lot easier, so do that if you can.
The first two things that gotta come out are the chassis brace under the car, which is held on by about 8 12mm bolts, and then the exhaust mid-pipe. There's some rusty 14mm bolts, so good idea to put some penetrant spray on them the night before. Next up, we gotta get the mid-pipe to the downpipe bolts here and over here. They're both 14s. You'll need a long extension to get to them. The downpipe to mid-pipe bolts are easily accessed from the back with a long extension. With the mid-pipe bolts out at the back and where it connects to the downpipe, it's time to get the exhaust hangers out, which are here and here, that hold the mid-pipe in. Best to lube them up beforehand. Mid-pipe's out. It sits in the car like this, but you have to flip it upside down to get it out because these hangers get in the way. This coily springy piece here holds your O2 sensor wiring. From the bottom, it goes across the downpipe over to this side, and it plugs in right in here. This is the setup you want to get the lower rear turbo downpipe to turbo bolt. It's a real pain, but we've got like a 6-inch extension stacked on a 3-inch extension with a deep socket, and it gives you enough room to get enough clicks out of your ratchet over here. Because our heat shield bolt's stripped on the bottom, on the lower side of the manifold, we're gonna have to lower the turbo down a couple inches by loosening it off the manifold to the turbo connection so that we can get at the final 2 bolts that hold this downpipe to the turbo. To get the turbo off, we have to take off the turbo drain because it's a hard line that goes to the bottom of the turbo, and that the turbo can't come down without the hard line out of the way. It's just 2 8mm?
Yeah.
We had to take this bracket off from right here and right here that goes into the back of the block, and then there's one bolt that goes onto the turbo from that bracket over there, and that supports the turbo at the back. It wasn't letting us drop the downpipe in the turbo, but now we got it off. We got better access to the downpipe up there. We had to take the alternator cover out of the way to give this gun here some more room to get the downpipe to turbo bolts off. Working on the last one right now. Now we wrestle the downpipe off the turbo. Josh is down below wrestling this meaty catted pipe off. So he's dropping the downpipe out. He's got to finagle this fat catted pipe out.
Ah, the O2 clip wedged against something.
Oh, there you, yeah, pull it out. Oh.
He's out.
The aftermarket downpipe and mid-pipe should be a lot easier to get in because it isn't chunky and thick like this cat. It's just a swoop curve. Yeah. At this point, if your turbo was good, you just throw in the stock downpipe, but for us, it's turbo time. We're gonna drop that turbo and put in a new one. To liberate the turbo from the engine, we have to disconnect its oil and coolant lines. So to get this turbo out, we have to go through the hole in the tunnel where our exhaust and mid-pipe went. Josh is gonna finagle it out now. He's doing it exhaust housing first, going towards him.
It's just catching on all this tinfoil crap.
Nice. Nice. Well done. Look at that, Josh. Now with both the turbos off, we're going to transfer the heat shields from our old one to our new one. We're going to get the turbo back in the car, hanging off the manifold. Then we're going to attach the oil drain, the oil feed, and the coolant lines. We would usually put on all those fittings before the turbo goes in, but the room is so tight to get it in through the tunnel above the subframe that we basically can't have any of the accessory components of the turbo on the turbo when it goes in. So we're just going to have to do that finicky work with it in the car. The vacuum line connections on the boost controller are very brittle and they're very easy to break. So be very careful when you're taking the vacuum lines off of that you don't yank them and break them, because it's an expensive part and it's easy to break the plastic. Gotta leave a message on all your parts for the next owner. Well, it's been a hell of a time. Got the turbo out, and then a stud going into the exhaust housing on the turbine side stripped, wouldn't come out, nut wouldn't come off, big problem. Had to make a Lordco run because of it, and after a lot of farting around and struggling to get it, we've got a combination of the compressor and the turbine that we've slapped back into the literal back of the engine here. And then it's pretty easy to get the top oil feed and the lower oil drain. Now, you want to leave your turbine to manifold bolts a little bit loose so you have some play in the turbo when lining up the downpipe. We're hoping it's easier with the aftermarket being a sleeker design, but certainly with the OEM, you need to loosen up your turbo and tilt it away so you have better access to the inner downpipe to turbine housing bolts.
Oh yeah, I think this is the angle. Okay.
It's usually best to get the downpipe to exhaust housing nuts on all 5 before you tighten any singular one down all the way, just to give you a little bit of wiggle room. What is this, hour 7 of what should be a 2-hour job?
2 hours? No. 4 or 5.
This lower rear corner downpipe nut is probably the hardest to get because it must be done with an open-ended wrench, flipping your wrench back and forth to gain just the amount of room that you need to get it tight. So be patient and keep working it. All right, go. After all that time having the springs on the front of the car, we really messed it up, and it actually is putting the springs on the back of the car is the better way to attach this mid-pipe to the cat bag. All done.
Yes! Big. 4.
Slap the intercooler back on, connect your charge pipes and your vacuum lines, and you're good to go. So it's been a long day of putting things back together. We're now like 8 hours deep on a job that shouldn't take this long. When you've taken your turbo off and drained your cooling system, you have to prime it along with your oil system into your turbo. So what you do is you pull your ignition fuse. So crank it for about 20 to 30 seconds and you'll know that you have oil in your turbo then before you start up and start putting heat through it. So that's where we're at now. Now you pray that you don't have any leaks and that all your fittings that you reused are good. You pray to the car gods and you start it. Let's get to it. That's a wrap on the high flow catted downpipe and KO4 turbo install on this 2008 Mazdaspeed3. I forgot to film an outro, but thanks for watching as always. Please smash the like button and the subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching and hope you guys have a good day.